Is this rod knock?
That's pretty good.
You pop the trunk or the hood? What's up, yo? Here is the engine that was making the terrible noise. Today we pulled it out of the car and popped it on an engine stand and flipped it. So now we are tearing into it. All right, the oil pan is off. It took 10mm and a putty knife. Yikes, that's a bad situation. We have the oil pickup off. What does it look like under here?
None of the rods seem to be broken.
That's pretty good. These caps feel
Oh,
sick.
it barely moves. So.
Oh! That is not within spec.
That bearing's gone.
So this bearing... Alright, let's crank this over and inspect that bearing.
So that's what we were hearing. Hey, it was rod knock.
That's... So, the mystery is solved. That sound in the video is in fact rod knock. So we're going to take a closer look at that situation. Let me see, 22... Alright, let's crank her over and check out this rod. Let's check out this bearing and this crank whatever. I forget all these words, I'm just too excited right now. This is pretty gnar. So, what do we have? Oops. Yeah dude, there's no bearing. It's not there. That was a tri-metal bearing. And it's gone. No bearing. So it had no bearing.
And we did install it just to be...
Yeah, and
just to
I
be
have
clear.
a picture of the clearance. It was within spec. And we torqued it properly. So there's absolutely no bearing. Cool. Alrighty, so as you can clearly see, one of the bearings was so wrecked that it's now completely gone. And yeah, so no bearing, bye-bye forged crank, and there are some tri-metal bearing pieces right there. So that is at least one of the sounds. The other sound we still haven't found yet. What's up YouTube? This is just a little explanation vid to tack onto the end of the Miata footage of kind of what happened to the Miata, why it happened, and what led up to it. So first off, I'm not a mechanic, I'm just a dude who loves working on cars, and if anything I say is completely off base, like, comment, let me know. I'm interested in learning the right thing. With that being said, so here's the deal with the Miata. A buddy bought it earlier this year, already had a Beggy turbo kit installed. It was like, yeah, turbo Miata, woohoo. Drove it 2,000 miles, loved it, and then the oil pressure gauge started acting funny, like, you know, whenever he braked, it would wiggle. So he checked the oil level, and to his horror, there was no oil on the dipstick. It developed a little bit of rod knock after that, after being run with very low oil. So we pulled the engine, replaced the rod bearings. Sure enough, the old ones were toast. Replaced them with Clevite tri-metal ones, and then put the engine back in, and that was the end of that. The rod knock was gone. Apparently, during the install though, fitting plumbed for, you know, cooling the turbo got messed up and it had a leak. I didn't know about this leak, but he did, and he topped it off a couple days and I guess didn't do anything about it. And then he forgot to top it off, and one day while he was driving it, it shut itself off. He turns it back on, there is a horrific knocking sound. Why did he not think it overheated? Well, the temp gauge did not say it was overheated. You know why? There was no coolant in the engine, and the temp gauge cannot read the temperature of air. So yeah, he overheated it to Fukushima levels. There's no coolant in the engine, and now there's severe rod knock. But what causes a rod bearing to completely disappear? Well, when an engine heats up, the oil does as well, and at a certain temperature oil can experience thermal breakdown where it just loses viscosity and doesn't do the things oil's supposed to do. And this thing got pretty dang hot having no coolant in it. I mean, you know, a plastic front cover on the engine melted, and that takes what, 300 degrees? So yeah, it got pretty hot, and cylinder number 3 is the one that experienced the catastrophic bearing failure. And we think that's because it was one of the tightest clearances and farthest away from the pressure source, which is some mechanical engineering thing, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, that's kind of a backstory on the Miata. Just figured I'd throw that out there, and instead of typing it in the description, this was easier. So, yep, anywho, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna film a video of us getting the engine, reinstalling the new one. Probably not. Filming's a lot of effort. But yeah, so that's what we're gonna do next with the Miata. Just figured I'd throw this out there, potentially save a couple of engines. Peace, yo.